Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about distributive property. Distributive property is a mathematical property used to rewrite expressions involving addition and multiplication. So here's kind of like a really fancy way of saying it. For any three numbers A, B, and C, so that means you can put literally any number in for A, any number in for B, and literally any number in for C. When you have A parentheses B plus C, which has the product of two factors. It is also equal to B or A times B plus A times C, which is the sum of two terms. So that can be a lot of big words at once. It can be kind of confusing. What we're pretty much saying is that whatever number is in front of the parentheses is being multiplied by everything inside. So A is being multiplied by B, and A is being multiplied by C. Once we have those, we can add those together since the operation in between them is that plus. So it's important to know from now and for future mathematical purposes is that when a number or a letter are right next to each other without any operation in there, that means that they're multiplying. So you can have like 2x. 2x would mean that 2 and x are multiplying by each other. That's something to keep in mind. I know for sure that you are going to need it in 7th and 8th grade and beyond. So let's take a look at this with actual numbers. Hopefully this helps a little bit more. So here's our example, 2 parentheses 3 plus 5. So step 1 is to multiply everything in front of the parentheses by everything inside. So what I like to do is I like to take my pencil and kind of draw a line going from the number in front to the first number inside the parentheses. That's kind of a reminder to me saying, hey, I need to multiply 2 times 3 together. Sometimes you can, or if you feel like it, you can put like a little multiplication sign on top, so that kind of reminds you. It's really up to you. But what's important is that you have to make sure that you multiply the 2 by not only the 3 but also the 5. There can be as many numbers inside the parentheses as possible. Either way, you have to take what other numbers in front and multiply it by that. So I now have 2 times 3, which I already wrote down. But now I took my pencil and I kind of drew an arrow going from 2 to 5. That's telling me, hey, I need to multiply 2 times 5. And then I'm going to keep that operation that's right in the middle because 3 and 5 are being multiplied. Added. We're just doing a different step inside. Or before, I should say that. Excuse me. Step 2 is to multiply the terms. So we ended with our 2 times 3 plus 2 times 5. So I'm going to take my 2 and 3 and multiply them together. Remember, if numbers are right next to each other with separated by parentheses, that means that they're multiplying. And 2 times 3 is 6. Same thing with the 2 and the 5. This means 2 times 5. Multiply them together, and I get 10. So I am left with 6 plus 10. And step 3 is to complete the last operation of addition or subtraction. In this example, I have addition. Just know it can be subtraction as well. So I had 6 plus 10, and 6 plus 10 I know is equal to 16. So to kind of recap, just know that whatever is in front of that parentheses needs to be multiplied by everything inside. Whatever operation is already inside needs to stay. We took the 2, multiplied it by the 3 to get 2 times 3. Took the 2, multiplied it by the 5 to get 2 times 5. After multiplying those together, we were able to complete the operation, which was located in the middle, and added them together. So here's another way of looking at distributive property. We have numbers that we can look at, but we can also look at figures to see how this kind of looks a little bit different. So we have our 6 boxes right here, and if you recall, 6 was from our last problem. We're using that same problem, but again, we're showing it in a different way. I have 2 rows of 3 boxes. Over here, I have 2 rows of 5 boxes. And over here, I have, once I add them together, my 2 rows of 3 boxes and then my 2 rows of 5 boxes all together. So that can be a little bit different than how we looked at it last time, but it's actually the exact same thing. Just like if we were finding area of any object, we would take the 2 numbers and multiply them together. So up here, I have my 2 times 3. My 2 rows of 3 boxes. Same thing with this one. I have 2 rows of 5 boxes this time. So I'm going to take my 2 and multiply it by my 5. Over here, it's a little bit different. I still have my 2 rows, so I'm going to write my 2. But instead of just 3 boxes or 5 boxes, I actually have to add those together. So I have 3 plus 5. But there's still 2 rows of each set. So that's why I have my 2 in front of my set of parentheses. So from here, I can do the same operation that I did before. I know that the numbers right next to each other means that I need to multiply. So I multiply 2 times 3 to get 6 and 2 times 5 to get 10. Down here, I can use my newfound knowledge of distributive property in order to make that look a little bit different. 2 times 3, which is being added to 2 times 5. If I go on this side, 6 plus 10 is still equal to 16. And over here, I have 2 times 3, which is 6. 2 times 5, which is 10, which is equal to 16 when you add them together. So either way you look at it, distributive property does work. It is something to keep in mind, as I said, later on. I am going to make one little note with this, though, you guys. And is that if you can add the numbers in the parentheses, do this first, then multiply that number by the number in front. So it's just another way of doing it. I encourage you to get into this habit because when we start doing order of operations, I've seen multiple kids do this in the wrong order, and that causes some big confusion. So for example, another way that you can solve it and how I encourage you to solve it, especially for order of operations, is to take the 3 plus 5, which is in the parentheses first, add those together to get 8. That 2's still there, so we can take that 2, multiply it by 8 now in order to get our 16. So it's just another way of looking at it. You should know both methods, but know that you should solve what's in the parentheses first if you're doing order of operations. But sometimes you can't add the numbers together, and this is going to be one of those situations. So you can't add the numbers together if there is a variable or a letter representing a number in the problem. So any letter that is in the problem that does not mean multiplication, for example, this is 2x plus 3. It'll never say 2 times plus 3. That just will never make or never happen. But this x is what's called a variable. It's a letter that represents a number that we don't know. And if you have that variable, we can't add these together if this doesn't also have that same variable. You'll kind of learn that later on, but I wanted to kind of give you a little brief flash into it. In this case, you're going to have to do distributive property. So you have 2 times 2x, and then 2 times 3. So again, I did that same thing where I took my 2, multiplied it by the 2x, took the 2 and multiplied it by the 3. When you multiply 2 times 2x, you just multiply the numbers in front and you get 4x. And then 2 times 3 is 6. So again, this is going to be for later on. It's just something that I wanted to expose you to now so that when we do get to it, it'll be a little bit in your mind. So bottom line, distributive property, very important. Make sure that you are taking advantage of this learning because you're going to need it much later down the line. If you have any questions, please let me know.